What is good, everyone? It's Galeriot here, back again with the Gems of Anime series on the 5-9 channel, in which we bring to you some of anime's finest, greatest, and most iconic pieces of work, with some hidden gems coming your way as well. Today's show is probably one of the most well-known and critically acclaimed romantic dramas to have been released in the last decade. Of course, before we get into it, leave a like if you enjoyed this video, subscribe to the channel for more anime content, and of course, leave it in the comment section down below. What is your most favorite romantic drama or romantic show, even if you have one? Today, however, we are talking about Your Lie in April. This is a series that was originally serialized in manga format between 2011 and 2015, and it was written and illustrated by Naoshi Arakawa. The anime adaptation then followed up in 2014, from October to March 2015. This adaptation was produced by well-known studios A1 Pictures, and while the manga received a mixed bag of reviews with critics praising the plot and characters while criticizing the artwork, the anime went on to become a highly acclaimed anime, with critics praising the plot, animation, and unbelievably good soundtrack. Let's talk about the synopsis a bit. We are following basically the prodigious pianist Kosei Arima, who, after the passing of his mother Saki Arima, he falls into a bit of a downward spiral, rendering him unable to hear the sound of his own piano. 2 years later, Kosei still avoids the piano, leaving behind his admirers and rivals, and lives a colorless life alongside his friends, Tsubaki Sawabe and Ryota Watari. However, everything changes when he meets a beautiful violinist, Kaori Miyazono.
私は演奏家だもの。君と同じ。
僕は大切な楽譜を投げ捨てた人間だよ。
Who stirs up his world and sets him on a journey to face music again. Shigatsu wa Kimi no Uso, or Your Lie in April, approaches the story of Kusei's recovery as he discovers that music is more than playing each note perfectly, and a single melody can bring in the fresh spring air of April. This is the synopsis of Your Lie in April, and while it doesn't give a lot away, and even so with its posters and PV setting up what is supposed to be a colorful and lighthearted tone and a journey of recovery, your expectations and the setup that immediately gets going from a couple of episodes in, it's a tragedy in the making that's, is shown on screen. And while the series isn't about a specific tragic moment, it's about everything else. Being able to heal, learning how to heal even more so, I should say, learning when to move on, learning to accept all of ourselves, even parts we didn't know were a thing. The biggest thing this series does is learning to accept help and new things in life, while also having to accept when to say goodbye. This story follows all four characters, as we don't simply just deal with the characters' first love, but also tragic situations that no child should have to go through, with the viewer and it's shown by the viewer delving and exploring the realities of PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder, childhood abuse, and chronic illness. This show does a fantastic job in not painting it as something that is immediately rectifiable or something that people can get over immediately. The reality is that they are horrible things, and they can twist people, ruin moments, and have long-lasting impact on characters. While older and more well-versed anime fans might criticize the over-dramatization of the young teenagers, as well as how predictable the story can be, the reality is that it is exactly what we were as teenagers when we poured everything into something we loved, even our first love and infatuation, only for it not to come to fruition due to one reason or another. Let's talk a bit about the characters and teenagers themselves that we mentioned here. Each character had their moment, with even adults of the show being fleshed out, at least more so compared to some other shows of a similar nature, and it allows us to experience each character at their best and worst. This does mean the pacing does take a bit of a hit, especially in the first half of the season, with it being super slow and dragged out, but the reward for the slow moments helps tremendously for the more impactful moments, as the inner monologues and various other moments help us relate to the characters, as well as display their conflicts in the best way possible. Let's talk about the soundtrack here. For any musical show, even if it may not be the complete central focus due to the romance and drama going on in this one, Your Lie in April does a brilliant job with its OST, bringing in classical music to take it up a notch. OSTs such as Again, as well as classical music such as the legendary Beethoven's Piano Sonata No. 14 or Moonlight, brings a great blend of both original and classical music that is well placed and well conducted. Talking about both openings and endings, and what can I say, bringing in a cult classic like Hikaru Nara as the first opening cements its place amongst the top rankers of all-time great openings, followed by an equally great but less acclaimed Nanairo Symphony by Koala Mode, makes Your Lie in April have fantastic music to kickstart the episode. And the EDs. What can I say about them outside of just beautiful pieces of music, with both Kirameki and Orange being fantastic EDs, with Orange being a personal favorite over Kirameki. Let's talk about the characters now. You can't have a perfect score without the characters being a high caliber. And that's where Kaori, specifically, I should say, Kaori Miyazona sparkles. She is a confident, strong-willed, beautiful, motivational, short-tempered, fragile, and lonely at all the same time. It's a lot in one character, but at the same time, it's one of the reasons why I think she's also one of the better female leads in a very long time. Yes, she obviously feels a bit sidelined for Kosei, who does feel a bit frustrating at times, and I'll get onto that in a little minute. But I do think whenever she's on screen, she is the highlight of the episode, or she's the star of the screen basically there, and it's so good to watch. Kosei, like I mentioned, is a bit frustrating and a bit bland when you think about it. He's a more generic character, but it also represents the realness, and that's the beauty of it. Like, he can appear frustrating, he can appear bland, but it also feels real at the same time. The struggles he faces, the desires to overcome those struggles over time, and obviously the black and white world that he's facing, and we watch him transform it into color. It's unbelievably great. And Kosei isn't necessarily the best protagonist you'll ever see in any anime, but the beauty is watching him develop, and that's the great thing. It's one of the better coming of age developments you'll see in anime history, in my personal opinion. And yeah, it's just fantastic. Let's talk a bit about the side characters. I personally enjoyed a lot Aiza, specifically, who obviously is somebody who idolized Kosei as a hero, and even though he is just as equally talented and prodigious himself, and he always strives to catch up to him, to make an impact, and it was great in watching that. In my opinion, however, there are also some side characters who did suffer a bit by, being of a specific archetype, specifically Tsubaki. I feel like super, super basic. It's the character who's, the childhood friend who's in love, but of course the protagonist can't realize it, neither can Tsubaki. Over time, she learns that and, wants to, fall in love with Kosei, but obviously Kosei is more interested in Kaori. And then, of course, Vatari is, the generic best friend who's an athlete, good-looking, confident, the drill. The usual side character, or best friend, I should say. But that's the characters. I still enjoyed a lot of them. They do have their flaws, but it's the flaws that also make them real, which is good in my personal opinion. Let's talk about the animation, to back it up. Back all of it, make this into a one neat ball of amazingness. Let's say that. Let's call it that. The ball of amazingness. A1 Pictures comes back for more glorious work, and as I mentioned earlier, with a beautiful color palette to go along with it. While most colors pop, the blues in the show are beyond gorgeous, and each character sparkles as they appear on screen and reflect the mood as well. This is especially noticeable as the cheerful and happy-go-lucky aura of Kaori diminishes as the episodes go on, reflecting the situation as it progresses. Moments during the concerts and musical performances are equally as brilliant, as both Kosei and Kaori have their own moments, and the animation fluidly shows the brilliance of both performing live on stage. Overall, A1 brings the best to the table, and it is seen vividly on screen. Now, the flaws, of course. Again, I've mentioned it in the Anohana review, as well as many other reviews we've done on the 5-9 channel. There are definitely some flaws with the show, just like most shows, and one of them was mentioned earlier, the pacing. It can be dragged out, and some people will not appreciate it, and for some, the reward may not be worth the wait at all. And another issue might be the drama as well that goes on within the show. While for the most part, the drama, the melodrama, I should say, that happens in the show is quite realistic, it can also feel a bit over the top with the amount that happens, and, well, you wonder why kids have so much problems in their life in the show. And, of course, the final issue is, of course, something that a close friend of mine told me when he was watching the show, is that it is easily predictable as to what happens at the end, and this could affect your viewing experience. So, with everything that's been mentioned, why would I suggest Your Lie in April? It's primarily the experience. While it's not a perfect romantic drama or musical, it does pull at your heartstrings where needed, and in my opinion, the journey that Kosei goes through is extremely worth the watch. Even though it may be cliche, it can be original in places where it needs to be, and it excels at those genres. While the humor may be a bit awkward and poorly placed, the anime, for what it's worth, deserves all the plaudits and acclaims it gets, with its fantastic soundtrack and animation matched by its characters and plot. Your Lie in April is a classic that has a lot of polarizing opinions, but going in with an open mind and enjoying what the show gives will be a great starting point for all viewers. It's a good experience that I would recommend viewers to watch, if not a great experience. With that, we will be back next week with probably one of the most popular shows of all time, one that's even in the top 10 of my anime list, and that's a hint for you guys that are watching this far. If you guys did enjoy this video, of course, leave a like, subscribe to the channel, comment down below what do you all think of Your Lie in April if you've watched it, and we will see y'all in the next video. Take it easy, everybody.